It's way too dark in here.
It's a camera corner, camera corner, camera corner, camera corner, camera.
Camera corner, camera corner.
And there's cosplayers galore. Hi, Martin. Hey again. Hi. Hi, Moscow. Hi. Okay, that's Lil Creole. That's him. Yes. Holy crap. What the fuck? Oh my god.
You got the next to. What? Many people have to get connected to them.
Oh, is this stuff aside?
My name is Montague. Montague Summers, Galway's chief vampirologist. Now we're in the middle of a recession. Normally we'd have about 5 or 6 people handing out wine and canapes, Japanese style. However, today we may only have a skeleton staff, which I'd like to introduce. First of all, our driver, urologist Michael, blood on the tires, Schmuck. Now before we begin I must...
Oh, no hands.
And no legs. After a while. Now, there are some rules which I believe you must adhere to. First of all, never ever look back. Number 2, I forgot the second one.
I look
Third
like
one,
Michael Jackson
don't
in that
ask
plane.
Or don't call us. We'll call you. You can tell me I haven't rehearsed. Yeah.
I am Michael Jackson. I look like Michael Jackson.
That was meant to be Ghostbusters. Whoever's organised the music, to hell with you. Now, we've just left the epicentre of Galway, Galway's very own university, a place of evil and academia. They believe that, those fools. It began in the 1840s under the aegis of a queen known as Queen Victoria. We know her as the Famine Queen, don't we? Yeah, you know nothing, I see. Do you know what the university is, sir? Kindergarten, perhaps, yes. Creche? What level did you end at? Jesus. Never mind. Now we know that Queen Victoria was responsible for building several universities in Cork and Belfast and more evil places. And of course, in Galway. Now, you see the little door we just passed by there? No, you didn't. But if you did, you're very good. I forgot we'd left the university already. You cannot prepare for a tour like this. We have to ad-lib the whole way. That's why we like to do it. Now we know that in the 1800s there were many famous students that left the walls of this university. Have you ever heard of Bram Stoker?
Yes.
He didn't go here. His brother did, however. His brother was a very famous man by the name of Thomas Stoker. His older brother was a man by the name of Thornley Stoker, one of the chief surgeons of Ireland at the time. Now we know that Thomas was studying anatomy. Do you understand anatomy? I do. Oh. Is it coming on to me mildly? Is it the accent? Well, we know that the supply of cadavers to the anatomy department did not exceed the demand. We know that the next place we'll be passing by, which is now Galway's cathedral, place of evil, used to be a prison, a jail, where people were executed. My favourite word in the English language. Now, we know that executed victims were often given to the members of the anatomy, not members of the anatomy, if you know what I mean. Not a member, an actual person. Thank you. Yeah, it's just me pedantic. Now, we know that many of the students studying anatomy needed more. And across the road from the university today lies the hospital. It used to be a poorhouse, a workhouse, where the inmates had very short lives. We know that many of them were given over to the students who in the middle of the night would take their dead bodies in coffins, open them up, perform evil deeds, take them apart, put them back in the coffin before morning, and nobody was any the wiser. A Christian burial was afforded these wretched people, until one day Mrs. Gannon's funeral was held in Rahoon, a nearby location from here. Big pallbearers were lifting her coffin. One of them slipped. The coffin slipped too. The lid popped open. Out fell, what would you think? Normally Mrs. Gannon. However, no. Body parts, limbs, intestines, you name it, fell out. And the scandal of the anatomy department unfolded. But everything was swept under the carpet, including Mrs. Gannon. You won't read about it in prospectus. Here on your right is what's known as Galway's very own cathedral. Built in 1965, there are people inside the church who are older than the building itself, praying. Most unusual, decrepit folk. Now we know that in the years of 1800 to 1939, there was a 40-foot wall around here. And where we are just driving to is today a car park would once have been known as the Boneyard, a place of execution. How familiar are you with the west of Ireland? Have you heard of Connemara?
Yes.
A place of evil. Inbred evil. It gets worse. Now we know that in the 1800s in a place called Mountrasna, Michael has relations there, I'm really sorry about this, 7 members of the Joyce family were found with their heads bludgeoned, squished, in their little cottage. At that time Ireland was under rule of the British Empire.
Sorry.
It's over. It's over. You mean your trauma is gone? What are you talking about?
I'm British.
I didn't ask you to interject. Oh yes, you're British. Shall we take him out and execute him? For retribution for all the sins that occurred here in Galway. Come with me, young sir. We'll hang him. There's enough hooks here to hang the poor man. God love him. But standing even stopped, looking out the window, can you see there in the middle of the car park a cross, which marks the place of burial of all those victims of execution who were buried under there in Galway. Buried in a bit of lime so their bodies would be dissolved. You're liking the story for some reason. Now, we know that at the time when the 7 bodies were discovered, the British government, evil. Sorry, he asked for it. He asked for it. Now, we know that they said they would find the perpetrators of this act. 3 men were arrested, and a show trial was placed in Dublin. The Crown Executioner of Britain and Ireland was a man by the name of William Marwood. He plied his trade in Britain. He was British. They was so famous at the time they had a little ditty about him. If Pa killed Ma, who killed Pa? Marwood. Not very funny, but it's interesting nonetheless. Now we know that Marwood came here because the 3 men were sentenced to death. Execution publicly. The trial was placed here. Journalists from Galway lined up in their seats to see the executions taking place. What are you saying? YouTube, or shut your Facebook. What are you looking at? Turn around and kiss my ass. You're showing him that. You can't flirt when I'm on the microphone. You sick puppies, I love it. More, bring it on. Titillate him. Look at this man, he can't get enough of it. He's looking in the mirror, bring it on. Drive on, Michael, blood on the tires, drive on till I tell the story, for God's sake. They're not even listening, I don't know, I'm on a wild diatribe altogether. Now, I can tell you that as the nooses were placed over the neck of the 3 victims, one of the men shouted in Irish, the 3rd man was innocent. However, William Marwood didn't understand Irish, so when the 3 nooses were placed over the heads, the lever was pulled, 2 of the ropes went taut, the 3rd rope, the man struggled. He managed to get his hand between noose and neck and he died a grisly death, as was the custom of the day when the masks were taken off the victims' faces. 2 men had died peacefully. The 3rd man, a botched death. They say he's never gone away. His name is Miles Joyce, and he parades around the grounds of the cathedral looking for British people. Evil. Shall we sacrifice him? Oh, sacrifice. Oh, sacrifice. Oh, yeah, she likes this. Oh, God. I knew you were strange. Thank you, Shimmy. I knew they were strange, but this is really taking it too far. Now we're about to cross over the river, a place of evil, but not yet a place of execution. We can change that tonight if you want to. Kiss my ass on camera, huh? Flirt, baby, flirt, titillate each other while I'm telling grisly stories. Is this what you get off on, you sick puppy? Jeez. Okay, maybe it is. I should not take this too far, because it's true. I touched a raw nerve. Good Lord Almighty. Now in front of you lies the courthouse, a place of evil. Yes, you're getting into the hang of it, thank you. Now, there's a clock in the middle of the courthouse where the executioner who plied his trade in Galway would look to know the time of the execution and go, not anymore. It used to be that you went from sentence to servitude a very short distance over the bridge. Today, you go to pray in the evil place, an evil thing. Now, what am I talking about? I have no idea because I don't know where I am. But you're in Galway, a medieval city, and we are about to go into the epicenter of Galway, a place known as Ayr Square. Have you heard of Ayr Square? British man, representative of that island. Evil. You look stunned now at the word Ayr Square. Have you never heard of Ayr Square, Airhead? Come on.
I went to it earlier.
You went to it earlier. What did you do? Did you go bushing?
Sure.
Sure.
I went shopping.
Shopping? That's way too civilized for this particular tour. Shopping for what? The clothes you're wearing now?
Comics.
Comics. God almighty, the end of interview. Okay. I went shopping, for God's sake. You're in Galway. Get off your head on Buckfast or something. Buckfast makes you something fast. Maybe an L, an F or something. I'm not going to say that. It's disgusting and evil, and I prefer to execute you anyway. Now, we know that Ayr Square, prior to being a public park as it is today, was once a site of
Good.
Execution. You got it wrong. I love it. I love it. I bring you so far. You had your own next. Thank you. Now, we know that prior to 7